a life, can't put me in a box. I redefine any definition you got. I am the tiger, I'm making steps to the top. The flames, I whip it up, you just gotta hand me the rock. Take a seat, you cannot stand it. All I know, the flow harder than a Scotch bonnet. Don't try studying me, you cannot manage. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon.
Hello. Hi, you guys. Hi again. So, this show, we're going to talk about accountability conversations. Oftentimes, in many people's narrative on YouTube, you see men and women clashing on the topic of accountability. You see people like Tommy Sotomayor and what's his name? Umar Johnson, Kevin Samuels, all of them saying things like women don't hold women accountable. You got the entire MGTOW movement out here, whole thing, saying that women do not hold women accountable. Women have no accountability. Hey, Mario, what's going on? So I want to have a really in-depth conversation today, like a really important one. And I know that you guys know Life Discussions with Dr. Jefferson as a platform that is surrounded around accountability. We have the difficult conversations around accountability that affect the Black and the Brown communities in America, even those topics that happen around the world that affect this particular community and the perceptions shaped by this community. So today I'm gonna, share with you guys the exclusive that Sha'Carri has given. I think it's USA Today or NBC. Yeah, on NBC. There are just so many levels to this, right? So before I get to that, I want to know whether or not you guys have commentary. Have you guys already rendered your comments, your verdicts on this young lady? I mean, she's 21 years old. 21 years old. You reached your goals, you reached life goals, and you are in a position, in a place where very few people get to go, right? Regardless of how hard they work, some people just are not made to be in the Olympics, right? Some people are not made to be athletic. Some people cannot run fast and things like that. So I think there are so many different levels to us understanding what's going on in this particular situation, but I think it does have a lot to do with the way that we as a community view accountability for one, and distress management for two, proper distress management for three, and what accountability really means, okay? So you have this young lady who is in a particular position, okay? And in her particular position, this is a job. She's paid for it. She's paid for her being able to run. She's paid for her being able to participate in the Olympics. She's paid for her to have this particular position and to abide by a set of standards or rules. It's just like your doctor. And I keep bringing you guys back to that. So if I am your therapist and you come to me for therapy and I'm high, right? How would you feel if you're giving me your narrative, you're storying your trauma, you're telling me that you've gone through XYZ, this, and this, and you feel this way, and I'm running and stumbling over the words and asking the same repetitive questions because I'm getting nothing from you. You're paying me for a service, and I'm presenting with an altered mental status in order for me to be a therapist that's effective in me rendering and properly doing my job for you. Don't you think I need to be of sound mind, body, and spirit? Hey, Money Boy Trey, what's going on? I think that there is something wrong with us in this community when we say, let's boycott the Olympics. Nobody's going to watch the Olympics because they won't let her play. They're going to suspend her. Where are we when professionals get suspended that aren't Black? Or is it that we just don't recognize that? Because for us, things never happen until it happens to Black people. That's the kind of question that I'm asking. That's what, for me, for us, we have masks that we wear every day, and we have now decided to normalize those masks. We already normalized one substance. Okay. That's alcohol. We legalized that. So now we're legalizing marijuana too. Okay. Everything is a process now. So everything in life in moderation. So if you are an athlete, if you are a professional athlete, right? I agree, Kamoji. I agree. If you're a professional athlete and you know that drugs of any type are disallowed in order for you to participate in the games, okay? Why would you be thinking that it would be okay for you to participate in the games under the influence? Why? I guess the biggest question that I have, though, because here's the thing. In this interview that I'm going to play, we're gonna hear some of her commentary about what happened with her mother and all of that stuff. You said on the same day, a Black female hurdler was banned for 5 years for not taking a drug test. No one is standing up for her. But the thing is this. If Sha'Carri, let me tell you something. Sha'Carri, she knew she had drugs in her system. She could have been that same girl. There is a reason that she took it. These young people feel like they're so smart. They're smarter than the system. They're smarter than the drug test and everything. Okay. And the reality is, and I have lots of young people who come into the hospital like, no, Dr. Jefferson, like you could, no, I don't have that in my system. How you see that? You cannot trick the system. You can't. Your body is human. Your blood work looks a certain way if you have substances in it, and we will find it. It's not, there is no getting around it. When you try to dilute it, we can see that too. Like, there is no getting around it. Okay. So the other young lady, she probably knew she had substances in her system. She probably knew she had more than marijuana in her system. And she said to herself, you know what? Instead of having this go on my record, like Sha'Carri now, I'm just going to go ahead and just take this for what it is. I might look better because there is no confirmation of what was in or is not in my system. Accountability is when we accept that we do a thing and we do not excuse it. I'm getting to that right now. You said the argument her mom passed is a distraction. So if she had harder drugs in her system, it would have been okay. It wouldn't have been okay, period. It's not okay, period. Because I'm going to get to the real issue. The real issue is this. Our society has normalized wearing masks. We have normalized going out here and numbing, suppressing, ignoring the issues that we go through and not having a priority around handling our mental health issues and our emotional distressors and things like that. Like, we have normalized not getting the help that we need. That's what it is. That's the real issue. And before we get therapy, we will go and we will say, you know what, I can't afford that, but I can afford this $5 bag of weed, $10 bag of weed, whatever y'all pay for that. I'm a person who's never used any drugs whatsoever. But you will go and you will do those things before you get the proper help you need. I find it really interesting that we fail to hold these young people accountable. But the biggest issue is this: her demeanor when she did this interview and the way that she speaks afterwards. It tells me that she is a part of these Gen Z kids and beyond who believe that nobody can tell them anything. Nobody can tell them how they should be responding to things. Nobody can advise you of anything. Why? Because you have all the answers. If your ass had all the answers, young lady, you wouldn't be banged up in this situation right now. You wouldn't even be here. You would not even be here. Kids her same age going to military every single day, signing that contract, not knowing what they signed up for, and they want to smoke weed too. And guess what? If they pop on a piss test and they get an Article 15 on their way out the door, guess what? If they really want this, if they know that this is their last opportunity to thrive in life, if they know that they need this, guess what? They're going to straighten up and they're going to fly right, and they're going to take accountability for whatever they did. Because at the end of the day, nobody needs excuses, because excuses don't lead to anything. Accountability, however, leads to profitability. You can't continue to make your money. You cannot continue to walk in your faith. You cannot continue to move in a position that positions you or seats you to have security in life, to level up in life. If the only thing that you know how to do is pull the race card, make excuses for yourself and other people and everything that happens to you, not the things that you do. I'm a retired lieutenant colonel. But so I feel like accountability is a necessary part of the puzzle, but I also feel like proper distress management skills are also a necessary component to the conversation, because I feel like we're not having these conversations with these kids. And I feel like oftentimes they think that they can move and do as they please because we're not doing our jobs. And I feel like these young people, you have the ability to impact one another. There are lots of people in their 20s and 30s who can get on the same level as and have conversations with these young people that will help them move in a more positive direction without offending them, because you know that language, pretty fluidly. And you can do the code switching necessary for you to get on their level and help them into a better space. Do that. What's wrong with just doing that? So let's get into watching this video, okay? Let's do that.
And the U.S. women's 100-meter champion who dominated at the Olympic trials has tested positive for marijuana following that race. And this morning, that has put her Olympic future in doubt. Sha'Carri is going to be with us for an exclusive live interview just ahead. But first, more on Richardson's remarkable journey that's drawn her comparisons to the legendary FloJo, and what could be a stunning disappointment for an athlete who's won the hearts of millions. With a blazing time and standout style, Sha'Carri Richardson recently punched her ticket to Tokyo.
Richardson's going to Tokyo!
Unbelievable. The fact that I am an Olympian, no matter what is said or anything, I am an Olympian.
At the Olympic trials, the 21-year-old Dallas native won the 100-meter dash in a blazing 10.86 seconds, making her the fastest woman in America. But now it appears her Olympic dreams may have been put on hold. A U.S. Olympic source telling NBC News she failed a drug test after her finals win, testing positive for THC, the chemical found in marijuana. According to her lawyers, Sha'Carri has been suspended from the Olympic team, and her failed test may cause her to lose her spot on Team USA
entirely. Her Olympic trial results were automatically disqualified when she tested positive. That means she won't be allowed to compete in her signature event, the 100 meters. But there appears to be an outside chance she could compete in a different event. What's unclear is whether she will appeal the test result and the disqualification, or how long her suspension will last. NBC News has reached out to the USA Track and Field for official comment. Sha'Carri captured the hearts of millions when she ran into the stands after her victory and hugged her grandmother just a week after losing her biological mother.
My family has kept me grounded. This year has been crazy for me. Going from just last week, losing my biological mother, and I'm still here.
And after being notified of her failed drug test, Richardson tweeted yesterday, "I am human." Savannah. Chanel, thank you. And Sha'Carri Richardson joins us now. Good morning, Sha'Carri. I just want to ask a simple question first. How are you doing?
I'm blessed to be alive. That's about it.
This is not easy. This is a hard moment that you're in right now. And I thank you for being on. And I know you wanted to tell your story. So tell me, what happened? What led up to this positive test?
Just honestly, I want to take responsibility for my actions. I know what I did. I know what I'm supposed to do. I'm allowed not to do, and I still made that decision. But not making an excuse or looking for any empathy in my case, but just, however, being in that position of my life, finding out something like that, something that I would say is probably one of the biggest things that have impacted me positively and negatively in my life when it comes to dealing with the relationship I have with my mother. So that definitely was a very heavy topic on me, and people don't understand what it's like to have to, or people do. We all have our different struggles. We all have our different things we deal with. But to put on a face, to have to go in front of the world and put on a face and hide my pain, like who are you, or who am I to tell you how to cope when you're dealing with a pain or you're dealing with a struggle that you've never experienced before or that you've never thought you would have to deal with. Like, who am I to tell you how to cope? Who am I to tell you that you're wrong for hurting? So I think just honestly, just leading up to that, dealing with my mental health, dealing with my mental as is with leading up to the games, every time stepping on the track, definitely expected to be a record-breaking time or something like that. So just with that, pressure in itself was also just another thing. With this actually been my first full professional career, my first full professional circuit this year due to the pandemic. So just considering all of that put together, long time, my agent, my sponsor, my sponsorship, my family, knowing me dealing with all of this during time. So,
Sha'Carri, I just want people to understand where you're coming from, and tell me if this is correct. But it was a few days before your big race and the trials, you found out that your biological mother had passed away. You found out when a reporter told you, and it was after that you ingested some kind of marijuana. I should mention, you were in Oregon. It's legal in Oregon. You didn't violate any law, but it was against the rules of your sport. And as you said, you knew that. But is that what happened? Is that how this unfolded?
Honestly, yes, that is the story. I had an interview scheduled with my agent. I knew I was having an interview. I knew going into the interview, I was just thinking it would be a normal interview, and then on the interview to hear that information come from a complete stranger was definitely triggering, was definitely nerve shocking, because it's just like, how are you to tell me that? Like, it's like, and no offense against him at all. He's just doing his job, but definitely that sent me in a state of mind, in a state of emotional panic, if anything. And still knowing that even though I'm here, I still have to go out and put on a performance for put up a performance for my dream, go out there and still compete to what it is. So yes, definitely triggered, and from there just blinded by emotions, blinded by sadness, blinded by just hiding hurt, honestly, for the fact that I know that I can't hide myself. So at least in some type of way, I was just trying to hide my pain.
Yeah. The Olympic officials, the U.S. track and field, the anti-doping agencies now have a decision before them. Unfortunately, you will not be able to compete in the Olympics in your race, your individual race, 100 meters. But there is a chance. It's a small chance, but there's a chance you could go to the Olympics and take part in the relay. Are you hopeful for that? Is that what you're holding out hope for at this moment?
Right now, I'm just putting all of my time and energy into dealing with what I need to deal with to heal myself. So if I'm allowed to receive that blessing, then I'm grateful for it. But if not right now, I'm going to just focus on myself.
What would your message be to those who are considering that right now, who are thinking about that, and to your fans, who have fallen in love with you and were so proud of your performance and maybe crushed just as you are in that moment? What would you want to say to them?
I would like to say to my fans, to my family, to my sponsorship, to the haters too. I apologize as much as I'm disappointed. I know that when I swim the track, I don't represent myself. I represent
So I did post the link for those of you who want to go and watch the full thing, but yeah, that's the part that I was trying to get to. I said the same thing. I feel like maybe she's under the influence while she's doing this video. There are a lot of different behaviors associated with a person being high. She could be nervous though. She could be nervous. There could be just distress and maybe her realities are kicking in, and she may be simply distressed in general. So I want to talk about distress management in its entirety before I get to Brianna McNeal conversation. So as I'm talking about distress management, when it comes to people who are in these positions, these different positions, when we talk about the Olympics, when we talk about people who are in the music industry and entertainment industry, what are your thoughts around accountability as it relates to the people that identify, that are in those fields, that identify with the Black and Brown community? How do you guys feel they are or are not held accountable, or to what extent? Do you feel like because of her age, they should have been less invasive? Do you feel like somebody should have gotten her to help? I think Mario J was the one that covered one of the biggest points around this piece. When you level up in life, right? This is when you make significant successes, right? When you make significant shifts in your life where you are now moving and operating in a different way because you have to. You're in different company and things like that. There are certain things that you need to look around you and account for. And that's your inner circle. So if your inner circle, she mentioned that the people that were supportive of her during this difficult time with her losing her bio mom. And I'm interested to know what that really means for her, because she refers to her as her biological mother, just in and of itself. Okay. And that's a whole nother piece. She mentions this loss and that her family had been there for her. But the reality is, when someone is there for you, it does look a certain way. And those people hold you accountable, because those people don't let you fall into a dark hole and decide to mask your pain, because they know, especially if they're adult people, they know that eventually that pain will come after you. And it's like a double-edged sword when it comes after you after you've tried to suppress it. Okay. So there is no way to get around holding those people accountable. You said Black women are trying to protect her because, in my opinion, if it were a Black man, it would be a different response. I think I can't necessarily disagree with you. I can't necessarily disagree with you. Also, the same thing for Brianna. But the one thing that I noticed that it's the same between both of them, they talk about the haters. They talk about how they're not perfect. They talk about how they're human, blah, blah, blah. These are cop-outs. The human condition is definitely a thing, but radical acceptance says that we accept the fact that there are some things that are going to happen in our lives that we don't have control over. And as a result of us not having control over those things, we move to a place of understanding of what those things really mean for where we are in our lives. And as a result, if we hurt, we find meaningful ways to reconcile those parts of us that are damaged in that movement, in that dance. So if this young lady's argument is to say that I'm hurt because I lost my mother, as a result, I use these substances. And these people are responsible for being in her inner circle. And they are accepting that. They're really allowing her to go on and do this live interview with these words, saying to my haters, blah, blah, blah. It tells me they haven't sat her down and had a conversation, even at the onset of her stepping into what this might look like with her going into the Olympics. There are conversations that we are responsible for having with our young girls and our young boys about what your future entails. Oh, thanks, Kimoji. You have to understand it's beyond important, okay? It's beyond important. If we want a legacy that we can be proud of, we have to do things that say that we are proud of ourselves first. We cannot let our kids go out here and be strung out on weed, cocaine, because the substance abuse life is on a continuum, okay? It's a whole thing. It's a whole move, believe me. And I know lots of people are like, well, you know what? I just stuck with weed my whole life, so I don't believe that. There are different strains of weed, and I can guarantee you haven't had the same strain the whole time. You didn't keep that same energy the entire time that you've been on weed, and that's it, according to you. When you decided to have a little bit extra or drink some alcohol with it and things like that, there are lacing weed. It's so many different levels to this lifestyle, and so many levels of detriment. If we haven't learned anything from the people who have died under questionable circumstances, Whitney Houston's entire line, hello? Her entire line left here like that. Where are we as a community when it comes to accountability? Where are we? We see people going through the very difficult dance of life when it comes to substance use. We can see what negative effects come from that. And we still have the same type of energy that allows us to continue to move forward as if these things don't exist. And then we have the nerve as a Black community to pull the race card and say, well, you know what? Let's just boycott the entire friggin' Olympics, because obviously they're being racist. They're picking on Brianna because she had an abortion and now she don't want to take this drug test, blah, blah, blah. You said, what role do you think Generation X plays in the role with how young women act today? I think that there are several levels to that. I think Gen X people have no accountability. They drop the ball oftentimes, and as a result of them dropping the ball, we see these kids right here. And there is no accountability. So accountability is a systemic thing. So if we start at, and I don't know how many people remember, but back in the day in the 60s, 70s, and things like that, there was accountability. It meant something to be a member of the Black community, Afro-American community. It meant something to step out, dress appropriate, look the part, all of these things. And over time, we have moved away from these things so far to where they no longer are things that we can identify with. We find ways to say, well, you know what? That was our way of blending in with white society. Who do you think made the dresses for the white society that you claim that we are trying to blend in with? It's a long-seated cultural custom for people that are of African descent to look very much decent. It's just so many excuses. There are so many excuses in our community. We take so many blind eye perspectives and we do not hold these kids accountable. The reality is we have to continue to hold them accountable because the thing is they feel like nobody can tell them anything. Brianna McNeal said in her tweet, I want to make sure that I quote her correctly, I'm not going to argue with all caps perfect people, to be specific, but people in general. I said what I said. That's all. Some won't comprehend, but that's okay. That these are today's tweets. Then 2 hours ago, let's be clear. If you think that my case from 2017 was just, you are mistakenly wrong. Back then, I was young, a little naive, and didn't have the courage to speak up about certain things. Need I go on? We have to be people that hold people accountable, okay? The fact that she's saying that she has a husband and that her sponsors and her coach are sticking with her throughout this entire process. We have to stop making excuses. That says that this girl has a viable support network. That says that she has a lot of people that can hold her accountable in her network, but they refuse to do so. And as a result, she really feels like somebody is doing something to her instead of her taking accountability for the things that she's doing. Same thing happens with Sha'Carri. I feel like we have to be people that hold these young people accountable, because then here's the thing. As much as I just don't like Kevin Samuels, oh my God, when he says that we have a problem with holding our young women accountable, that's a us issue. I thought it was very interesting that so many people, these content creators, Cynthia G, and what's his name, Umar, these we get sometimes so far to the left because we're in distress about what's going on in front of us that we lose our focus. Quit losing your focus. Stop acting and responding with emotions, and that's it. Make it make sense before you respond with those emotions, because oftentimes you're misinterpreting them and you're only interpreting the feelings you have associated with the emotions, because the emotions are a deeper component. Therapy definitely works, people. It is something that is very much effective. I don't like Kevin because of his approach mainly, but also because he's a person that is very contradictory. So you can't tell men that, okay, you have to do this or you have to be this way if at their age you weren't that way yourself. And you weren't living up to standard. You weren't taking care of people. You cannot ridicule people for doing the same things that you've done in your history and you're still currently doing right now. That's how I feel. It's too much of the pot calling the kettle black. I don't believe in people in hypocrisy. That's why I don't like Kevin Samuels. But also because he is so good at manipulating numbers and making shit look like it makes sense when it really doesn't. It's annoying to me. So I'm a pragmatics person. I'm about accountability 100%, regardless of how much validity his messages may hold sometimes. I feel like he has a real issue with allowing people to sit with their truths and helping them see things in different perspectives. Now, there is nothing wrong with that if that was his approach. But he doesn't have that approach. You can't force your perspectives onto other people. So if you want to sit and you want to sit inside of your negative energy, if you want to sit inside of your maladaptive coping mechanisms, guess what? As a clinician, I'm not gonna force you to heal. I'm gonna let you know that I'm here when you're ready to heal. The doors of the church are open. I'm not here to force anything on anybody. So it's about helping people to see that maybe it may be something different, but it doesn't have to be. Your truth and my truth don't have to be in alignment with one another. And I can still respect you. I don't have to call you out of your name and call you a stupid bitch or hang up on you because you don't agree with me. That's crazy. It's absolutely insane. So if you say that you're really out here for saving Black families and reestablishing stability in the Black culture and all that good stuff, having the conversation around difficult truths, have those conversations, but it doesn't mean that you have to disrespect people. You know, you don't see me calling this young lady a weed head. Her life, her choices are her own. Do I know that these are maladaptive means of coping? Of course. And I'm going to call a thing, but I'm not going to disrespect anybody. You said he doesn't have the credentials to tell us anything, and he used his celebrity to boost men up and put women down when both sides lack accountability. I agree. And for me, I hold both sides accountable, period. I hold people accountable, period, whether it's Kevin Samuels or anybody else. But for me, it's just understanding the overall. My thing is with Kevin Samuels, you can't use your trauma to bond with other people to help push a particular narrative that is not a necessary universal truth. So your truth is not the world's truth. Your idea of what people value in their partner doesn't mean that that's what people actually value in their partner. And as a result, can't push unrealistic expectations. It's just ridiculous. But so I would like to see us not pull the race card. I would like to see people go to therapy to heal as they need to. I would love to see the Black community step into a place of accountability when it comes to establishing priority in your health and wellness, whether it's your mental health or your physical health. I think that Black people have such a huge issue when it comes to misappropriation of finances. So we'll go get these Jordans. We'll go get these $200, $300, $1,000 bags, $1,000 belt buckles for $300. We'll go get all of these things, but we cannot afford to pay for therapy. We'll go get the pills from the street dealer. We'll go get the weed from the street dealer. We'll continue in that same behavior until we're broke as hell, but we cannot afford therapy. The reality is, if we are to walk with a blindfold on, it's more, beneficial for us because we don't have to face those difficult truths. But to be honest with you, guess what? When that high wears off and you wake up and all of this stuff is still right here in front of you, but now it looks a little bit more intense because now it's stacked up on top of other issues as well. Because while you were high, life was still happening. Life was still going. You just had a moment to where you could slow down and detach yourself and dissociate from life. Just because you had that small moment doesn't mean that you resolved the issues that are now still before you. Resolve the issue, people. Get to a better and a higher level of functioning. Own your shit. Call a thing a thing. You said, yes, trauma bonding, right? Many truths can exist together. He acts like we can't coexist. Exactly. And I see that it's an us issue. We have a problem with integration. We have a problem with self-acceptance. We have a problem with self-love. We have a problem with accountability, personal accountability and cultural accountability. We have a problem with accepting our truths and our realities around our history, and then even challenging ourselves to get closer to knowledge about our history and who we really are. There are so many cop-outs in the Black community that prevent us from being and maintaining a high level of functioning as people, that we will remain lost if we don't catch ourselves quickly. I'm serious. This is a real issue here. It's impossible. It's impossible. I mean, for the longest, we've known that people can't use drugs and compete in competitive sports. It's a no-brainer. You said we can afford it, but it's hard to sit with the trauma and pain and process it. I love therapy, but it's like peeling back an onion and discovering yourself. Yeah, it is. It's about discovery though. Guided discovery is different from, abrasive discovery. If you do not allow therapy to be a component in your life, if you don't walk into a space where you're allowing yourself to be vulnerable with someone, if you're not allowing yourself to be permissive and vulnerable with yourself, if you do not do those things that are necessary to us remaining calibrated as people, as different parts, you will definitely explode and fall apart later on in life, because at the end of the day, you will walk life like DMX. The man had so much trauma, God bless his soul. Walk life like Whitney Houston. The woman had so much trauma, like seriously. And then when they end up dead under suspicious circumstances, where those same people that could have been, should have been holding them accountable are contributors to their ending their lives. I don't think anybody has held Ray J accountable for his role in Whitney Houston dying. Crickets. Nobody's talked about it. Nobody at all. Don't act like you don't know, because it's not like people don't know, right? I feel like we have got to do better. Nobody held Clive Davis accountable. We have got to be better people than we were before. Period. You said, I love my therapy sessions. I look forward to them. I experienced so much trauma in my youth. I'm just grateful I don't look like what I've been through. Exactly. That speaks volumes. And I'm glad that it's working for you. Continue to press forward. And as you unveil those layers, and then once you get to the part where you begin to see life through a different lens, even with the trauma being there, and it's finally not, re-experiencing trauma in the same way, let me know. It's an amazing feeling. Said they were partying while witness. Yeah, they were. But a lot of people at the party didn't even know that she was dead upstairs. That's the crazy thing. That she was discarded and put to the side for about 11 hours, you guys, for about 11 and a half hours before her body was removed. And this is after she was found. After they reported they found her, because that's a couple of hours after that. So maybe like 13 hours altogether. Hey, Liz, how are you? But we've got to do a better job at holding one another accountable. And these content creators out here, the ones that I tagged specifically, have got to start clashing on like-minded concepts. At the end of the day, I feel like Cynthia G is a person that would love to honor and move into a place of acceptance of Black men and these types of things. But I think that she's been so traumatized by the way that the world is shifting, because she's been able to see that. She's been able to see that, these men were adoring her at one point, and now it's all the MGTOW movement, right? I think that Kevin Samuels is a person that is so traumatized by his previous relationship attempts and failures in being a father and failures in life. He's so traumatized by those things that he's not able to step into a true light where he's able to be an influential, positive component to the male industry out here. There are so many things that he could be doing with his time, and I totally get it. YouTube is a place where people are gravitating towards more negative media before they do positive things, right? However, I'm fine, Liz. How are you? However, I have to say this. If Kevin Samuels truly feels like, says Kevin saying, I'm getting my, exactly. If he truly feels like these young men that keep asking him to stop and pose and take pictures with him and blah, 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 if he truly feels like he's being influential on those people's lives, then why isn't he pushing the content around this image consultant, sales consultant thing that he really is? Because he's chasing the money now. He's got these men thinking that you're a high value man. Basically, if you can acquire 6 figures, which I acquired for the first time in my life because of YouTube. Like, so there are too many layers, okay? Too many layers. So I think that we have to move into a place of proper distress management. We need to understand what distress is. Distress can present in positive ways, from positive experiences, and it can also present from negative experiences. Like Sha'Carri was saying, she mentioned her mother, her biological mother passing away. That's what we call negative distress, right? Somebody entering the Olympics or finding out that they get to compete in the Olympics just in and of itself in a different country, a country that is so different from the one that you were raised in. That's positive distress. Getting a promotion on a job, that's positive distress. Buying a new house, positive distress. All of these things are positive stressors, right? But they cause the same trigger to go off inside of our synapses in our brain. So your neuroreceptors still receive it as stressors. So you still increase the amount of cortisol and the stress hormone that's produced from your brain and entered into your bloodstream. So you still have the same effects technically. So if we learn how to properly gauge that stuff, and we learn how to properly pace ourselves, and by pacing ourselves and proper planning and things like that, we position ourselves to not experience distress in a way that it's so overwhelming. These young ladies have I'm pretty sure have pretty thorough warm-up routines. These things increase your dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin levels like nothing else in your brain, okay? Like nothing else ever before, because they're stretching, and this is what these things do. Literally. There is no need for adding substances on top of what you already have. Just sort through your stuff. Call a thing a thing. Write down what's bothering you. If you don't have time to sit down and talk to a professional, get a journal and start journaling. Think about it as you're writing your autobiography early, much, much earlier than anticipated. But maybe the world needs to hear your story. Think about it like that, or start to voice record your thoughts. But you got to get the stuff out. Don't decide to sit with it. Keep it on the inside. Bottle it in. Bottle it up. And then as a result, you end up going and trying to find ways to mask it so you can numb and not feel the pain. That's just not it. You know, I am not a person that believes that a woman should have no accountability when it comes to getting pregnant either. So I do feel like Brianna McNeal's position when it comes to her getting this abortion thing and using that as an excuse, and then actually thinking that it's okay for her to hold other people accountable for her not being able to play in the Olympic Games and things, make it make sense for me. You have to be held accountable for your decisions. So I can understand if you had a spontaneous abortion. And by the way, for those of you who don't know medical terminology, that is a miscarriage, right? So your body naturally terminating a pregnancy. But if you had a spontaneous abortion, I could get that. That's a medically excusable. You had no control over that. That's something that happened to you. Okay. But if you're electing to have an abortion, be held accountable for your electing to have an abortion. And as a result, that impacting your career. And it's okay. Whatever you decide, it's your body. Do what you want to do. But don't hold other people accountable when you can no longer compete. Excellent, Liz. And it's a great way to get that negative energy out, and positive energy, and just reflections even, and to balance ourselves and see where we are and how we're growing, where we are, as opposed to where we were yesterday or last week. So hopefully this conversation has motivated you guys to start having a more intense conversation with those people that are around you, that are connected to you, so that you can impact them in a positive way. Because at the end of the day, we have to do our parts. We're systemically connected, all of us. So we all have a part to do in the grand scheme of things. We all have a contribution that's equally important. And I look forward to my part 2 of your history session discussions for tomorrow, Independence Day. So that is going to be some very interesting stuff. If you guys didn't check out the intro to that, it happened earlier. So go back on YouTube, check that video out. I dropped you guys some gems. I dropped you guys my favorite Black American person from history. And, you know, some insight into some others. So I definitely look forward to having that conversation with you guys. And it's been real. So with that being said, make sure you guys take care of one another, be responsible, make good choices, and hold one another accountable accordingly. And stop pulling the race card so much. Stop making excuses. Learn to be accountable for the things that you do and the situations you find yourself in because you just were interested in finding out something or how something worked. But I highly doubt this girl was smoking weed for the first time. I'm just going to be honest. I doubt it. So that's all I've got. Later days. Take care.
Who alive can't put me in a box. I redefine any definition you got. I am the tiger, I'm making steps to the top. The flames, I'll rip it up, you just gotta hand me the rock. Take a seat, you cannot stand it. All I know, the flow harder than a Scotch bunny. Don't try studying me, you cannot manage. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon.